ago, I was telling you about Rivka Bat Yael, who's a 4-year-old girl in our neighborhood who very tragically, 3 weeks ago today, she fell from the roof of her home. And for the last 3 weeks, she's been hospitalized and unconscious at Hadassah Hospital. So something that I think that is a pretty extraordinary aspect of a very tragic situation is how her extended family, the extended Razel family, how they have really come together in order to help as much as they can. Basically, the extended family has sort of moved into Hadassah Hospital. And in particular, my very good friend Efrat Razel, who is the aunt of Rivka Bat Yael, has been spending every morning and almost every afternoon at Hadassah Hospital in order to be as much support as she possibly can to her brother-in-law and sister-in-law and little Rivki, who's in the coma. And what I think is so exceptional is that, Efrat is a very busy person. She's a person who always has different projects going on, and she has children of her own, and she has lots of things to do. And how for the past 3 weeks, she's just put everything in her life on hold in order to do this, in order to support her brother and sister-in-law and niece as much as she possibly can. And I think for me, the reason why I find this really special and extraordinary is because I'm a person who I wake up every morning with a checklist, and my checklist is very important to me. I wake up in the morning, and when I get everyone off to school, check, and then I come home, I eat breakfast, check, and then I spend a few hours working on different writing projects or video projects, check, and then I get some exercise at the gym, check, and then I pick everyone up, and then I spend a certain I spend some time with my children, check, and then I have projects in the house, check, and then I have chores I have to get done, check, and errands I have to get done, check, and you get the picture. So for me to take time out from if the day ends and I still have one of my checks unchecked, because of something that went wrong or something, something in my scheduling went wrong, then it drives me crazy. I feel like I wasted my day. But something that's so important to keep in mind, I think especially for mothers to keep in mind, is that the purpose of life, I'm quoting now Rabbi Yitzchak Berkowitz from his new book, The 6 Constant Mitzvot. Rabbi Yitzchak Berkowitz explains, what is the purpose of life? The purpose of life is to achieve spiritual perfection. And he says something very interesting, that we have a tendency, we have a tendency to have a very limited view of how you're going to achieve spiritual perfection, how you're going to really accomplish something during your day. So we think, okay, how am I going to become the most spiritually perfect person today? Okay, so it means that you think, Rabbi Berkowitz explains, the average person thinks, okay, it means I'm going to spend a certain amount of time today learning Torah, check, and I'm praying, check, and being a good, devoted mother, check, and being a good, devoted wife, check, and doing acts of kindness for someone in my community, check, okay? That's how you're going to become the most spiritually perfect person possible. But the problem is, Rabbi Berkowitz explains, is that, when God sends us something that's sort of like a whammy in our lives, sort of says, okay, so you think you're going to wake up, it's going to be check, check, check. No, your washing machine is going to break, your fridge is going to break, this child is going to be sick, your husband is going to be sick, you're going to be sick, your neighbor is going to be desperately in need of your help, you're going to get stuck in traffic for 2 hours and totally miss everything that you were supposed to do that day. And he explains the way that we often achieve spiritual perfection is by, seeing the new situation and understanding that we're not going to get to our check, okay? And saying, okay, God, now the washing machine is broken, I've woken up, my child is sick, all the things that I want to do are not going to happen. God, what do you want from me now? God, how do you want me to respond now that everything has gone wrong? Now that I have to throw my checklist out of the window, God, what do you want from me? And so I had an experience like this past Shabbat. I traveled with my family to Tzfat in the north of Israel, and we go to Tzfat once a year, and it's a trip that we really look forward to. Usually we very, very rarely travel around Israel. So I had really had plans. I had plans. I was going to take my kids to this place, and I was going to take them to that synagogue on Friday night, and then I was going to take them to the playground in the morning, and I had all sorts of things that I wanted to do with them. I went with my husband. But what happened? On Friday, I came down with a virus, and I spent basically all of the Shabbat that we had anticipated and that I had sort of so looked forward to, and all sort of built up such an elaborate checklist, check, of all the ways in which this Shabbat I was going to be such a wonderful wife and mother and have a wonderful time myself and Tzfat. And everything goes, my checklist goes out the window. So, at that moment, like when I'm like lying in bed, my kids are sort of jumping on top of me and getting grouchy because all the things that we were supposed to be doing, we're not doing because Emma's not feeling well. At that moment, I was just thinking on the Shabbat, like, so what am I supposed to do? How am I going to achieve my purpose in life at this moment? How am I going to achieve spiritual perfection when my checklist has gone out the window? And basically what you do is just say, I decided I just need to say, okay, God, now my checklist out the window, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? And I realized, of course, that it was to be as much as possible to accept my situation, to accept my limitations, and to say, okay, like to just be as cheerful and as easygoing as possible under the very unpleasant circumstances. So I want to bless all of us. There's so many situations as mothers when, our checklist goes out the window. There are all these minor irritations that in fact are sort of just a daily part of motherhood. You had all these things you were going to accomplish, that you were going to accomplish on a given day. And then, the washing machine breaks, and the fridge breaks, and you get sick, and your child gets sick, and your husband gets sick, and your neighbor needs you, and the cleaning lady doesn't show up, and all these irritations. And at that moment, we need to remember what the purpose of life is. The purpose of life is to achieve spiritual perfection, not through having a perfect life and everything going perfectly and achieving all the check that we had intended to, but by saying, okay, God, at this moment, my checklist is out the window. Nothing's going to happen on that checklist. God, what do you want from me now? What do you want from me now? Okay? So I want to bless all of us with an amazing week, and with a very, very speedy, complete, and miraculous recovery for Rivka Bat Yael.